Hi everyone, Pete Aarons here, After Church Workbench, where we discuss difficult topics that don't get discussed at church. So, this is kind of my first episode. I'm going to share some of my story. My voice is still a little raspy after having lost it last week, but I'm sure you can hear me just fine. I wanted to go ahead and share some of my story, some of the reasons why I decided to start the After Church Workbench. Um, to start off, the Lord has been putting on my heart to start something like this for months. I've always been somebody who likes to share what I've learned and also share resources that have helped me and helped others to improve their lives. My background is in health and wellness, and when I managed a wellness program for a healthcare company, and throughout my career up to this point, when I've found things that are helpful to people, I try and share those with others to help improve their quality of life. So as I've found things that have helped me with the struggles in my life, I've wanted to share that with others who may be searching for the things that are going to help them overcome obstacles. Another reason why I decided I wanted to do this was because in my situation, where I've struggled with addiction to pornography since I was a teenager for over 20 years, I found that it was something that wasn't discussed in a church setting. Now, our church, the LDS faith tradition, we have a 12-step program that people can go to. It's not at church. It's usually on a weekday night, and you go, and it's kind of secluded. You go, you don't really tell people that you're going. There's still kind of some anonymity or secrecy involved. And for me, when it comes to things like addiction, which a large number of men struggle with in the church, whether it's in LDS tradition or outside, they don't talk about it. And they keep it inside, they keep it secret. Oftentimes there are people to go to talk about it, but they don't come out and talk about it. And I felt like if we discuss these things in our normal every Sunday church setting, more men at least are, and I'm sure women too, are going to be open about sharing and finding help. So that's not something that I can change necessarily. I've kind of opened up a little bit about my story in a church setting when I was teaching Sunday school classes. But still, it's not something that I feel, at least in my faith tradition, we're talking about enough. So I wanted to create a forum and an opportunity for people to talk about it, to find hope and healing, and to have an opportunity to talk with others, share with others. And so that's one of the reasons I decided to create the After Church Workbench. I also wanted to create this because a little bit of selfish reasons. I want to have something to do that keeps me actively working on myself and actively working to build a relationship with Jesus Christ. And by doing this channel, I've got to work at it. I've got to put my mind toward my content and what I put out there for people and the people that I talk to. So it's going to be on top of my mind. It's going to help me do good things and find recovery. And also, Satan has been nipping at my heels for a long time, and he's won a lot of battles. And this is my way of fighting back. Satan has won a lot of battles, and I'm going to share a little bit in some of the other battles I've heard that he's been winning or has won. But we know he's not going to win the war. And if I can help one person find hope, healing, and recovery, then I feel like I've done my job and it's been worth it. So I've had two experiences that have kind of pushed me over the edge to get this going. I know it's not going to be perfect. I know it's going to be rough getting going, but I hope that you'll participate with me and help me move this along so that we can get these discussions going and get resources out there that have been helpful to people. So a couple weeks ago, I went to church with my best friend from my childhood, John. He's a pastor at a non-denominational church in Canton, Michigan. And the first meeting that I went to was a guys meeting. I can't remember what they called it. but it was all guys, similar to what we in the LDS tradition call elders quorum, where it's the men of the church coming together in a group-like setting. In this particular meeting, everyone went around and shared what was going on in their life. There was kind of a scripture that helped lead the discussion, and we talked a little bit about that scripture's impact in our life. And then we talked about what's going on in our life and things that we might be struggling with, whether it's ourselves or our family members. It became very personal, and each person shared. And I found that very eye-opening, because that's not something that we do in our LDS faith tradition in our elders quorum meetings. It does happen in 12-step meetings, but this was just a guys get together where we opened up and shared. And I'm pretty sure that happens at least monthly, if not more regularly, in that church. So that again got me thinking, why can't we do this in the LDS tradition, where each week guys open up, get vulnerable, talk about their stuff that's going on in their life and their challenges, and then we can connect and we can support each other, hold each other accountable, all these good things that can bring brothers and sisters together, and I guess the word I want to use is knit our hearts as one. And then I went to a singles conference. Last week I went to the LDS Huntington Beach Singles Conference in Huntington Beach, California. It was literally the best week I had in my life. And I think part of that was I met so many people who we had great conversation. We opened up about things that we had gone through. Many of us are divorced. Of course, the question comes up, what happened? How'd you get divorced? So many of the women that I interacted with, their story was unfortunately the same or very similar. Often it was a husband who had an addiction to pornography, hid it, kept it secret. Even if they didn't keep it secret, it was still hard on their marriage. A lot of times it led to other things, cheating, prostitution, lying, all kinds of behaviors that ruin a marriage and ruin a family. And it broke my heart to hear that. I've been married twice. My first marriage, certainly there was struggle. I was pretty honest and open about everything from the beginning, but it still struggled because of my pornography use and other things that I didn't understand at the time. So I understood some of their pain in experiencing that. And I also met a number of guys who, even though we didn't get into their stories, I knew that they were struggling with pornography addiction. So there's a lot of hurt that I felt. There's a lot of pain. A lot of these women were abused, and just hearing these stories broke my heart. And I want to do something about it. I want to help in any way that I can, help these women connect with other women and with other people who are going to help support each other, strengthen each other through these difficult times. I want to learn about what they're going through and what their experience is, so that I, in my hopefully third and final marriage, will know what not to do. What things should I be avoiding? I feel like I'm a good guy, but obviously these women thought their husbands were good guys when they married them. So I want to avoid the pitfalls and traps that Satan puts in our place to ruin marriages and families. And I want to help other men to avoid those same pitfalls and challenges, so that they can be good husbands to their wives, and we can have happy, healthy relationships with our families and our children. Obviously, I haven't even talked about the children. The children are affected by all of this as well. So, through those two experiences, I really just got pushed over the edge to go ahead and start working on this channel and this discussion group, and to really get it going. I met a lot of women. I've invited a number of them to share their story. Not 100% sure how we're going to do it yet, but they're willing to share, and we're going to talk, and we're going to hear their side of the story, what happened. what are the things that they went through? What are the things that their husbands went through? And I want to get some guys on the channel to share their story, whether it's pornography addiction, drug addiction, whatever challenges that they've been through that may have led to either divorce or just, a broken relationship with others and with God. And I want to get them on the channel and have them share their stories. I started a business in November, December of last year called StorySave. And the whole point of that business is to help others tell their story for posterity's sake. So this kind of comes together for me in that I want to help others share their story, tell their story. And in doing so, as I worked with my life coach, John, who I mentioned, and we went through my story, understanding my story and looking into the story and allowing God into the story helped me find healing and hope. And I'm just on a path now that I'm more optimistic about the path that I'm on than I have ever been. And a big part of that is by exploring my story, exploring my emotions and what led to my pornography use, my triggers, all kinds of things. So with that said, I'm excited to start this channel. I'll just briefly give a little bit of my story. I don't want to make this video too long or any of my videos too long because obviously people start zoning out. I start zoning out when they get too long. So like I mentioned, I've struggled with pornography addiction since I was a teenager. As I explored my story, I learned that and came to understand that the lack of intimacy in my relationships with my family, with my parents growing up, I was searching for intimacy elsewhere. I have a very strong desire and need for intimacy, and I'm not talking physical, sexual, although that's a part of it. I'm talking emotional, spiritual. I like to connect with people. I like to talk about important things. I like to be held. I like to have intimate relationships with people and meaningful relationships. And I didn't have many of those growing up. Certainly not with my father. And I'm not here to blame him. He wasn't raised in a loving family where there were, deep, intimate connections and relationships. And that's not something that he learned or practiced throughout his life, at least with me. And so I didn't have those needs met as a child. And so when I came upon pornography, obviously I was curious. I didn't understand the feelings that I had. But eventually, as to make a long story short, as the internet came out and I found pornography on the internet, it was a coping mechanism to deal with the stress of a very difficult family life. And that started my pornography habit and addiction, and it continued on throughout my teenage years. I tried really hard to find sobriety. I met with my bishop, my LDS bishop. I can't blame him, but he wasn't very helpful. I had some good experiences that kept me at least trying and working on the path. I went on an LDS mission for 2 years, had sobriety, I guess, for those 2 years, although I would say it was sobriety from pornography, but I still had lust and didn't quite understand my need for intimacy at the time. Fast forward, I get married quickly. I was excited to have sex. I was excited to have that intimacy with somebody. I ended up marrying someone who I was not compatible with, a good person, but somebody who I was not compatible with. And we were not able to meet each other's needs. And so I did what I was used to when it came to coping with that lack of intimacy, and that was pornography. Even though it was better during my marriage in terms of my use. It wasn't as frequent, I would say. It was still an issue, and it continued to be an issue throughout my first marriage. Ended up getting divorced. It was a good decision. God has made lemonade out of lemons with that. She ended up marrying a great guy who appears to be meeting her needs, and they have this great relationship. I went on to make the same mistake again. Find someone who I thought I would be more compatible with. Got married very quickly. And in that instance, I was excited to find somebody and have somebody who I was more sexually compatible with, because I'm a sexual person, and that's something that I was ashamed of. I'm no longer ashamed of that, because I understand God made me that way. And we were more sexually compatible, but we weren't compatible in many other ways. And even though those red flags came up, I ignored them. My dad would say I let my hormones make the decisions for me. My sister would say something else, which I won't repeat. But again, I made a poor decision, and pornography again became an issue, and I hadn't resolved or understood those issues. So fast forward to now, I reached out to, or actually my friend John reached out to me talking about having a more intentional friendship, and I talked to him about life coaching, and I went through a life coaching process with him. He exposed me to a number of tools that have been really helpful, and helped me understand my story, understand my needs, understand myself and my relationship with God in many new ways, and things are on an uphill climb. And so I feel like this is great timing for me to work on this channel, work on this project of this After Church Workbench, and talk about these issues. So with that, this channel is going to be about a lot of those issues. Addiction, which is probably what I'm going to start with, because it's obviously part of my story and what I'm most familiar with. But we're going to talk about abuse. We're going to talk about betrayal. We're going to hear the woman's side of the story when it comes to all of that. We're going to talk about depression, loneliness, same gender attraction, all these things that are very difficult to discuss in a church setting. We're going to explore and talk about. And so hopefully I can, again, reach somebody who is struggling with one of these issues and is looking for help, clarity, tools to help them. Lastly, before I finish here, I call this the After Church Workbench. There's a story behind that, and I just quickly want to share that because it's meaningful to me, and I think you'll appreciate why I call it the workbench. So my dad was a handyman. He was an engineer, but he did a lot of handyman projects. And while my father had cancer, we didn't know it was cancer at the time, but while he was sick on Christmas Day, 2019, I made my father a workbench, and it's right here. You can't see it. I'll put a picture there for you, but I made this workbench for my dad. He never had a workbench, and I don't know of many handymen who don't have workbenches. And so I made him this workbench out of the leftover wood of a bed that we built together that I was going to use, and I actually am using right now. And my dad appreciated the workbench, the gift that I gave him, but he never got to use it. And while that's sad, I took the workbench and I built it here in my little studio, and I'm using it to, I guess, be a handyman, bring the tools, help give you the tools to conquer whatever issue you're dealing with, and to bring those tools to light, to bring the stories to light that are going to help. So I'm using this workbench to do my own personal work and to help you do the work that you need in your life to move forward and build a relationship with Jesus Christ. So with that, that's some of my story. I'm sure you'll hear more of it as time goes on, but I didn't want to make this video go on and on and on. So stay tuned. The next episode, we're going to talk about probably the number one key to overcoming any addiction, any of these challenges. The number one key that I believe you and I need to conquer these things. And I'll reveal that. It's not a big reveal, but I'm going to talk about it in the next episode. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Feel free to send me suggestions, tools that you found helpful. If you want to share your story, you have a story that you feel might be helpful to others, let me know, and I look forward to hearing it. So that's it for this first episode of the After Church Workbench. Look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you soon.